Syria and the Gulf states, that's where they are heading. They want to divert people's attentions from the real crisis. And that's why people in the US and in Europe should fight for their rights, should fight for their interests within their systems.
Thank you, Amal. If you'd like to stay on, Amal, Jeff Kassouf is going to speak on the issue of Palestinian Authority by the PLO. But you'll have to hold your tongue because I know you might not agree with everything, and he was very quiet during yours. And we're going to give him an extra 3 minutes because I would like to tell the audience we're going to give Jeff an extra 3 minutes because Dr. Quigley's speech was so muffled and they were speaking to the same issue, and Jeff is going to give a little bit extra of the information that Dr. Quigley would have given. And Abbas wants to say hello real quick.
Was she here? Was she here for mine?
She's right there.
She wasn't here for mine, was she?
You didn't say anything yet.
Amal, you'd like this. When Ma'an Harakat came from DC, there was no electricity at Beit Hanina. So I figured you'd like that one.
Okay, now we're going to ask Jeffrey Kassouf, a longtime friend of mine, and a peace activist, a justice activist, a strong advocate for Palestine. He's the president, he's the chairman of the Greater Cleveland Arab American Association, and he's just an all-around good guy, and he believes that Palestine needs to have a world voice. I would say I'm going to let him speak for himself, obviously. So, thank you, Jeff.
Okay, good afternoon, friends. Glad you all came out today. I'm not an advocate for the PLO or the PA, or really any government authority. As a matter of fact, through most of my 57 years here on Earth, I have been a fighter of the status quo and the government and the moneyed powers that run our lives daily. I'm a fighter for the people. I look to empower the people at every stand I can get. Now, when I looked at this bid in the UN, I heard a lot of fear being brought up. Fear that the Arab people, the Palestinian Arabs, are going to lose their rights to go back to their homeland if and when a settlement occurs. So I wanted to find out, okay, I could buy into that because I'm a supporter of the right to return. I believe that in this basis in international law, that if your land, if your home is taken away from you by force, that you have a legal right to return to it. I don't know, what's something going on, or what are we doing here?
No, it was a little glitch.
Okay. Maybe we want to just, can we just kind of close the window there so that's not, on the screen?
Sorry.
Right?
Okay.
We don't really need to.
Right. Exit full screen, there we go. Amal, turn your speaker off so that we don't have the interference.
Yeah, we don't really
Turn
even
the
need to
picture
see, we don't really even need to see any of
I
that,
can
right?
fix that. You know how to
Yeah.
do that?
Right?
There you go.
Yeah, that's all.
Uh-oh.
Okay. All right. I don't know what. Okay, so basically what I'm asking you to do is to do what I did. And that's to ask a lot of questions before forming a judgment. And the serious questions you need to be asking are, A, how exactly will this hurt the Palestinian people in the diaspora if the UN, if the world's governments recognize Palestine as a state based on 67 borders? How exactly will this harm the people who live outside of that state, their interests? And we asked that of Professor Quigley, and I know it was real hard to hear, but his area of domain, his experience, his life experience is in international law. He basically wrote the book on the right of return and the Palestinians' legitimacy to a homeland and
We have some interference,
self-determination.
Jeff, I'm so sorry. We have some interference, and I want to get rid of the interference, so it's gone. Yeah, take the picture off.
Her picture?
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, anyway, what I'd like you to do is, there's basically 3 documents that I think are important to read if you want to be up on what's going on in the UN and how it affects Palestine. The first document is written by a man by the name of Guy Goodwin Gill. Okay, 3 names, 3 G's. All right, Guy Goodwin Gill is an international law professor. He litigated the issue on the wall being built. He has some good credentials. He's Oxford University, professor of law. He wrote a paper, a legal opinion, trying to find negatives to asking the UN for recognition of the state of Palestine. And he was paid, this opinion was paid for by the PLO in order to find weaknesses in their plan as they were formulating their idea. So in other words, Goodwin Gill legal opinion, which all of the opposition to this move is based upon, they regurgitate everything Gill writes, okay? This was written by the PLO, it was formed by the PLO and asked to be written and paid for by the PLO in order to find the weaknesses in the initial ideas of the plan. Since that time, the plan has evolved. It's learned by what was written by Goodwin Gill, and they've reformulated their plan as to what they're doing. So you need to put that in context. I read the entire report. It's 8 pages. It's not that long. I suggest anyone that has a burning interest in this subject to look it up on the internet. Guy Goodwin Gill. He has an 8-page report. He talks about the legal issues and how it impacts the Palestinian refugees. Now, that report has been refuted by Francis Boyle. Francis Boyle is the international lawyer who wrote the Declaration of Independence, basically, for the state of Palestine in 1988. He was working for Yasser Arafat and the PLO at that time, and basically put the framework together for a Palestinian state in legal terms. Francis Boyle thoroughly refuted the Gill-Goodwin report and opinion, saying that this bid in the UN is good for Palestinians, not only those living in the territories, but those living outside of the territories. And not only is it good for them, but it's good for all of us who fight for human rights and justice. And the reason for this is because it is official world recognition of the Palestinians' laws. So that's one of the big things that it brings to the table. It's saying, the world body, the world's leaders are saying, hey, we recognize Palestinians lost something, and we want to roll it back to 67 borders, and we recognize them within those borders. Now, there are a few people that are against that, right? I happen to be what's called a one-stater. There's also two-staters, but there's various kinds of one-staters, okay? I'm a one-stater that permits Jewish Israelis to have a life after the one state arrives. There are one-staters who want only a Palestinian state from sea to sea. There are one-staters who want only a Jewish state from sea to sea. And then there are one-staters who say, all the people who were born in the land, or whose ancestors were born in the land recently, deserve a right to it. And then the people outside can negotiate their rights from there. We're one-staters that believe that there needs to be a place for the Jewish Israelis and also for the displaced Palestinians. A one state where both people are on equal footing legally. Both people can own land. So that's my position, and from that position, after looking at these legal documents, Guy Goodwin, Francis Boyle, and then the third one is John Quigley. John Quigley himself has a piece on the internet, and he's taken on point by point every argument from Goodwin Gill, and he's disseminated it, and basically tied it to the existing international law. And basically what he says is this is not a losing proposition in the UN. Now, there's two issues here. There's the issue of the UN statehood, and then there's the issue of the political leadership of the Palestinian people. And what we're seeing here to form this controversy is the mixing of these two issues, okay? There's a legitimate disconnect of the Palestinian people worldwide from their leadership. Just like there's a disconnect of the leadership of the USA from probably the majority of the people, the citizens of the USA, okay? We don't like our politicians, they don't like their politicians, okay? So that is entering into this equation and causing a lot of suspicion with whatever they're doing in the UN. But the way I see what they're doing in the UN is, why has it come about now? Why is it so urgent now that this question be brought to the UN? It has nothing to do with what Abbas has done, or the Palestinian Authority has done, or anything else. All it has to do with the fact that we are witnessing a time in world history where the majority of the people of the world see the Palestine-Israeli conflict for what it really is. And that's why you are seeing one by one, country by country, recognize the plight of the Palestinians and officially exchanging diplomats and officially recognizing their state within 67 borders. And this bid to go for this vote, it was always there. It was there since '88, since Yasser Arafat declared the state in '88. This bid was there. They were eventually going to go to the UN and get a vote, but no one counts their votes until you got the votes. And only now the threshold is just being reached with these Latin American countries where they could actually win in the UN General Assembly and override the US veto and gain recognition for Palestine, for the loss of Palestinians. Now we asked Professor Quigley specifically, is this move a detriment to the refugees? No, it is not. And once again, we offer the challenge and the honest question to anyone. If you find a fact in international law that proves that it is a detriment, please bring it forward. But don't scare us anymore with these claims that the refugees are all going to lose their rights as soon as the world votes to recognize Palestine. That's not going to happen. So that's my opinion. I ask you to read Guy Goodwin Gill. That's the opposing view. And I ask you to read the opposing view first, okay? So that you know the reasons why people are saying don't take this vote to the UN. And then look to the refutation. There's two of them. Francis Boyle, international law expert, founder, wrote the founding Constitution and the Declaration of Independence for the State of Palestine in 1988, and John Quigley. Basically, he wrote the book on the right of return and the foundation of the language of international law, which gives the to Palestinians to fight for self-determination. So those two people, when you're looking at the issue of the law only and not the politics of the Palestinian leadership, only the law and what's going on in the UN, those two people are the people to read. Francis Boyle and John Quigley. And their papers are available on the internet for anyone who wants to see that. And you'll find that, that it is good in international law to gain this additional recognition. Now, on the other issue of the leadership of Palestinians, where I stand there is it's been a long, long time since they've had any sort of democratic process or voting, and I think I raise my voice along with them all and others in the community that the people need to rise up and push for representation.